put it in the right file, according to alphabetical order. You know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Peter.
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P,
Peter.
Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Huh? That's all you have to do.
Very good. You know your alphabet.
I never misspelled anything. Not once, not one time.
We interrupt this program to bring you
Nick Whoa, Cage!
All right, everybody. My name is Kevin.
I'm John.
And I'm Adam.
And I'm Julie.
And we are the Real Movie Guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Review, the series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies. And today, ladies and gentlemen, referee, ring the bell and lock the door. It's time for a real cage match. Real Cage Match is a special series where we review the Real Movie Guys, take a look at 12 of the legendary films from actor Nicolas Cage, and they go on one-on-one in a tournament-style battle to determine which one truly is the cagiest of them all. And on today's episode, we're taking a look at Vampire's Kiss. After an encounter with a neckbiter, a publishing executive thinks he's turning into a vampire. Okay, guys, this movie is legendary for so many reasons. A lot of it just having to do with the most outrageous, outlandish performance ever given by an actor in a single movie. Came out in 1988, so the year I was born. Luckily, I didn't have to experience this in theaters. But after watching this movie, I gotta tell you, I kind of enjoyed it. You know, I know it gets a lot of hate for how terrible it is, and yeah, this is a really bad movie, but overall, I think there's something here a little bit, and I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. But Adam, let me start with you. Vampire's Kiss, what's going on? What'd you think?
What a zany movie. It was very, very chaotic, and I think I enjoyed it too. I think the chaos really brought it in for me.
Right, and it's weird. This movie, I feel like it doesn't know, it's not a horror movie. It's not a comedy, but maybe something somewhere in between that, maybe?
Yeah, some sort of hybrid of everything.
But it's not even successful at any of those things, but it kept my attention the whole time.
Yeah, it was like a car wreck. I couldn't look away.
Right, and it just is that enthralling, and all these years later, it's still just one of the wildest things I think Nicolas Cage has ever done. It surely is. John, you're the one I really want to talk to. You were saying from the moment you saw this movie how much you hated it. Talk about it a little bit with me. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't like this movie. I didn't like it from the start. Even like just you reading off the movie, what it's about, totally terrible. And like it was just, and just the opening of the whole movie where they're getting busy, and all of a sudden there's a bat in the room. And you're just like, the fuck kind of shit is this gonna be? And then you have this movie. That's what kind of shit it is.
Yeah, and I guess that is like the best idea of the shit of a movie, because it kind of is. It really, again, a lot of the issues have to stem with it doesn't know what it is, like we kind of said. But I think there's something there. I think you're a little bit too harsh. But again, I promise we're going to talk about it. Julie, what'd you think? This is your first time too seeing this one.
Oh man, this movie it's so bad that it's good territory. Zany is the perfect word for it, Adam, because before we even unpack the Nick Caginess of this movie, even like all of the extras or side, I'm like, where the heck did they get these people? Like there's one point where he's going into his apartment, there's two mimes like battling in front of his apartment, like slapping each other. Or the one secretary, they just like cut to her, she's typing, she's like, oh my God, thank God it's Friday. And she's like crying at her desk. Like this movie was just off the walls.
This movie its script is just like insanity.
Who wrote it?
And I don't know. And it bewilders me every time I see this movie because it just really blows my mind. But ironically, I think there is kind of a serious movie with a little bit of commentary in here. So what I want to draw your attention to is there's a movie that I think a lot of you are familiar with. American Psycho is actually probably the closest I could think of if I were to compare this movie to something. American Psycho essentially is like the insider of a businessman who thinks he's a serial killer, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't, we don't really know. And that's that whole premise that they're going for, is that allusion to what's going on. And Vampire's Kiss, ironically, is kind of the same thing, because contrary to what this movie wants you to think, Nicolas Cage isn't a vampire at all throughout this whole movie. He thinks he's a vampire. And it's funny when a lot of people reference this movie, oh, that's the movie where Nicolas Cage is a vampire. He's actually not. He's actually, it's kind of depressing. He's severely mentally ill and thinks he's a vampire. And I don't know. I just think his performance, I think he was trying to do something a little bit nuanced and a little bit artsy here, but it just got away from him. Adam, how would you describe that accent that we get? Because this is not the first time Nicolas Cage does an accent. We've talked about a couple already in this series.
Oh yeah, and it absolutely won't be the last, because there's a lot more coming. But it was like some sort of New York hybrid accent meets like some sort of surfer dude type deal.
And it's like, why? Why was that an accent that he decided to do? Like, I don't understand where that choice came from.
This is the vampire that I want to be. Like, this embodies my vampire mode.
Right. And I think ironically too, he turns into, by the end of the movie, when he thinks he's like full on vampire, he's kind of doing like a Nosferatu, where he has his like shoulders up like this and he's walking around with his fangs out and everything. Like, what is this movie? These choices that he makes, like, I guess he's trying to pay homage to like the old horror movies, but at the same time, it comes across so silly and zany that, I don't know, it kind of loses me. John, for you, was there anything that you actually liked in this movie?
Yeah, the fact that it ended quickly. But no, it was just so weird, and I don't know. I didn't even know what to think about it, like, after watching it.
It's a hard movie to recommend, and I think it's good that we have kind of some interesting like thoughts on this, just a little bit as far as where people stand with it, because either you're gonna like it and enjoy the thrill ride that it gives you of being so bad, or you're just gonna hate it. I really don't think there's gonna be like any in between with that. And it's definitely not a good movie. It's shot incredibly poorly a lot of the times. If anything, it feels like a softcore porn movie half the time, especially with the settings like zooming in. If anyone's seen The Room, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Like a lot of that, like just giant long establishing shots for no reasons. But again, it's weird too, because again, Nicolas Cage, I think he does a good job, which I guess you could use that term loosely for what this movie is. It is entertaining. It makes no sense. I don't know. What Julie, what do you think? Do you think they could have fixed this movie with what it was, or you think the premise just didn't work? Like, well, what could you have done here?
I don't know if you could have done anything here. I can't picture anybody other than Nicolas Cage, even though his performance is really just, can't say it's a good performance, but I don't think it's meant to be.
Right.
I don't know. And there's just a lot of problematic story elements in there. Poor Alva. That's the whole movie. It was just me shaking my head and going, poor Alva, just leave her alone.
I know,
his secretary. I don't know.
It's just so tough with this movie. And because, again, I think Nicolas Cage, we could say anything you want about this man's career, but he always wants to play an oddball or interesting character. That's usually what he goes for. And if you look at, again, his whole career, besides maybe National Treasure is probably like the most tamest of all the characters he actually plays. Every time else, it's something crazy. You know, it's something completely out of this realm. And even The Rock, I guess you could say, is maybe like more of like a typical kind of character. But again, anything he plays outside of that ends up being crazy. But I don't know. I feel like The Vampire's Kiss was like just it's an odd movie. That's really it. It's an odd movie in his belt there. Adam, what else do you think about this movie? Any other kind of crazy thoughts or?
I just thought it, to a certain extent, it was borderline, maybe not even borderline overacting in Nicolas Cage's part. Like maybe if they toned that down, maybe it would have some sort of a, I don't know, solid performance. But it just felt like every scene was just some sort of overacting.
And I
don't know.
Right. And I don't know. And I wonder, because it's one of those things where you feel like you want to give the movie maybe more credit than it deserves. And I always find myself doing that. And a lot of you probably think that too, where I'll watch a movie and be like, well, maybe that's the point. The overacting is supposed to be like a tribute to the old school horror movies where everyone was over the top and acting crazy, saying dialogue that doesn't make sense or is just written, just people don't talk like that. But I don't know if that was the case with this movie. I think genuinely it's just not a well-written movie. It had maybe a vision of kind of what it wanted to do, but for some reason it can't hit the mark. And unfortunately, I think with as much fun as I kind of had with this movie, I felt kind of wrong having fun with it, because as much as it is like a kind of zany Nicolas Cage like performance. It's actually really dark and kind of disturbing to the point where like, I don't know, I felt kind of uncomfortable a while because Nicolas Cage, he ends up raping the girl Alba at one point. He murders somebody, and at the end he kind of just gets stabbed in the chest like a vampire and dies. But you know, I get it. It's supposed to be like that kind of funny, like, oh, he got what he wanted in the end. But ultimately, instead of being like this comedy horror hybrid, it felt more like a really depressing drama, which is, again, just so strange. It's just a strange movie.
Especially, too, he's walking around numerous times, but when he's walking around the street after he killed that girl on the cliff, so he's got blood all over his face. He's walking around with the stake, and he's like, I'm a vampire, kill me, you know? And I mean, this is New York in the 80s, so people really didn't bat an eyelash, but like, it is kind of sad to just think like this, you know, definitely a man in need of some help, you know, and everyone's just walking past him.
Right, and I think we use the term too. A lot of people say that you walk a line in this movie. Either it's insanely brilliant or it's completely stupid. That's really what this movie is. And unfortunately, I think sometimes that the tonal shifts that are in this movie don't help it either. Where you can have like a spice of like the Nicolas Cage comedy overacting, going crazy, and then there's just long drawn out scenes of nothing really happening, just him kind of like wandering around, or you know, other characters interacting in like a very depressing fashion. I think it's just very uneven. And do you guys think that hurts the enjoyment of this movie? Even as it's so bad it's good. I think it does a little bit. I think it kind of makes it, even Nicolas Cage's performance at times, I'll say it, it's kind of embarrassing to watch like an actor, especially if someone that we know his quality of, maybe because we have foresight now, you know, we were able to see his career down the road. It's embarrassing to have to watch him do some of this stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got like the highest of the highest energy, and then all of a sudden the lowest of lowest, and it's just flashing back and forth. It's hot and cold, and I don't know if I would watch it again.
I know. That's where I come down to it too. Like maybe years from now, if I just want some shits and giggles, I'd throw it on. But honestly, I'd rather just go on like YouTube and look up some of the clips for this movie, which I do recommend everyone at home. Just look up some of the famous scenes. I think you're actually better off doing that than you are watching this whole entire movie.
Agreed.
The bathroom chase alone the first bathroom chase was very just, what is happening? From him jumping on the desk and then and nobody does anything. And then my favorite's the old woman in the bathroom where she's like, what the fuck is going on? And then she just walks out.
It's crazy, which I think brings us to what we're going to be talking about right now is the Real Cagiest Moment Award. Real Cagiest Moment Award is a special award that we grant to the cagiest scene in the movie where Nick Cage gives it his all. I'm going to actually give it to this one. We talked about it beforehand like we usually do. I think we have to go with, and you guys kind of all agreed, is the Nick Cage meme face, which has become so iconic from this movie.
You're the lowest on the totem pole here, Alva. The lowest. Do you realize that? Every other secretary who's been here longer than you, Alva. Every one. And even if there was someone here who was here just one day longer than you, I still wouldn't ask that person to partake in such a miserable job as long as you were around. That's right, Alva. It's a horrible, horrible job. Sifting through old contract after old contract. I couldn't think of a more horrible job if I wanted to. And you have to do it. You have to, or I'll fire you. Do you understand?
Where he's talking to Alva, they're having a conversation about her finding the missing report, which is like the through line in this movie, which kind of doesn't make sense either, which that's a whole nother conversation about he's just looking for this report. And he just keeps talking to her, and he puts his hand on his, he starts turning his head, and he keeps staring at her deeper. It's the zaniest thing I've ever seen. And you know what? It's because it's Nick Cage. I feel like it's brilliant. I really do, because he never breaks eye contact the whole time. And he just keeps contorts his face even closer and closer. It shows kind of a skill of acting, even though it's in a terrible movie and it's an utterly terrible scene. I think it still works. I think it's kind of entertaining.
Yeah, like how many other actors do we know that could actually pull off such a crazy moment like that?
I mean, besides maybe like a Jim Carrey is like the only other actor that could like probably do that successfully.
However, like Jim Carrey, that's just like his thing. And this is supposed to be like a serious movie, you know, where Jim Carrey is like, he does that in his comedic movies all the time.
You know, it's curious too to think. And John, aren't you curious how like this movie didn't ruin Nick Cage's career to some extent?
100%.
I think if he wasn't related to the Coppolas, I don't know if he would have had a career much after this. I hate to say that kind of got his foot in the door a little bit to keep on going. Because if you showed me this movie and you wanted me to cast him, I don't know. I think I'd have a hard time being convinced he's a good actor. But you know what? It's over the top. It's fun. Vampire's Kiss. I don't know if I can recommend it to you guys to watch it. If you like really dark, zany stuff and you just want to see what it is, maybe. But like we kind of said before, maybe just check out some clips on YouTube. I think you're going to have a better time. But that all leads me to our final scores. I'm going to give Vampire's Kiss a 4.5 out of 10.
I've become a vampire. Oh, God. Oh, God, where am I?
You're in the goddamn crapper hole, and I'm trying to take a dump, so either shut up and leave the goddamn acting lessons for home or go back to the ladies' room.
This is not a good movie. I mean, I hate to say it. As much as I think there are some zany things that are fun, but it's really bad, and it can be kind of hard to get through. Nicolas Cage gives out a standout performance that you won't forget, but you wish you could in some instances. The memes are worth it. I think you'll have a good time with just that, but again, really don't check out this movie. This isn't his best work. But again, it did give us a little bit of a breadcrumb trail to what we would see with Nicolas Cage in the future. To some extent, you know, again, just stay away from this movie. Adam, where do you stand with this one?
All right, I'm going to give Vampire's Kiss a 5.5 out of 10.
Alva. 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 There you are.
I just think that it really solidifies Nicolas Cage's roles as, you know, these zany characters, you know, going forward. And this is definitely, it's an interesting movie to watch. I think it's worth at least a watch just to kind of see how crazy it is. But I don't know. But a movie as a whole, it really doesn't hold up well.
No, it didn't age well at all. Again, maybe what was born in 1988 should have stayed in 1988.
Agreed.
Even in an hour and 43 minutes, it feels longer than that sometimes too. It's just some of the scenes. But again, like you said, we can't deny it really does solidify Nicolas Cage as the crazy man that we know. We should have known then. We should have known then. All those Oscar and Academy Award wins, we should have ignored that. We should have looked back at this movie. That would have told us. So, whatever. John, where do you stand with this one?
I give this a 2.
I had a feeling that was the case, and that's why I came all the way up here. Because it's my fault you feel that way.
And that's only for Nicolas Cage being in the movie. The rest of it, garbage.
You wouldn't watch it again?
Never. Not in a million years.
I mean, I did kind of want to put on like fake vampire teeth at one point and like just run around our neighborhood. Something kind of made me want to do that, but Julie said I couldn't. So, you know,
I thought you did that anyway.
Sometimes, you know, it depends when there's a full moon. We'll talk about that movie soon too. Julie, where do you stand with this one?
I am going to give Vampire's Kiss a 5.5 out of 10 as well.
You're just a fucking high school cunt. And I don't believe I ever really loved her, you know. It's just a cunt to high school. No! Oh, son! Christ! This is the end! I can't take it anymore! Go ahead! Kill me!
This was just really like just off the wall. I think even within like the first 3 minutes, I was cackling over something so stupid. And it continued like that through the rest of the movie. You know, yeah, there was definitely some problematic plot points in there that are very icky, but just you have to witness it at least once. Just the pure insanity that is this movie.
Yeah, I think there could maybe be an argument for, you know, again, I don't personally recommend watching it if you don't have to. I would say watch American Psycho. That would probably be just the better move, which I think American Psycho is like a 10 out of 10 versus what
Why
this
not
is.
have a double feature?
Why not have a double feature?
Why not?
because you shouldn't. No. I think there's something for this. Again, if you can just tolerate a bad movie, invite a bunch of friends over, hang out and watch it. Even then, I don't know. I don't even know if that you could even get that kind of like party atmosphere enjoyment.
I was gonna say, I don't think you'd have any more friends after watching that.
Because you know what? It's not so bad like The Room. It's not The Room bad, where it's so bad it's good. It's not there. I don't think, in my opinion, it's close, but it's not there.
It's just so bad that it's bad.
Like The Room has at least like 10 or 12 different scenes I can recite where, because it's so bad it's good. This has maybe like 2 that I can really think of that are actually like really that memorable. And some of them are just really uncomfortable, which I don't know if I want to watch with a bunch of people.
They're all uncomfortable.
But again, Nicolas Cage, he is the actor we're focusing on this month. So thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. The Real Cage Match series continues on where we take a bit of maybe a little bit more of a serious movie from Nicolas Cage in the next video. But till then, we'll catch you guys next time.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.